De encontrar. Soy así, ya es muy tarde para cambiar. Yo no espero nada, vivo sin rumbo. Solo quiero amar cada segundo. Soy aquel.
Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would love to welcome Chris Cochran. Chris's dedication to spreading kindness and generosity is embodied in his involvement with the Christian Cochran Legacy Fund through the Pittsburgh Foundation, a nonprofit organization inspired by his son Christian's enduring spirit. This commitment to making a positive impact is further reflected in his new book, What's Good About Today? A purpose-driven life. Oh man, I'll tell you what's good about today. The fact that we finally get to meet. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast. So nice to have you.
So great to be here, Lino, and I love talking to you. We've talked before, obviously off air, and I always feel energized when I'm speaking to you, and I feel so much of your energy and warmth, and your brother's warmth, and just your family's warmth, and so I feel very blessed to be here with you right now.
Thank you. Definitely. Absolutely. The feelings are mutual. And just so that listeners understand how we met. So we reached out to each other through a company called Podmatch, and I saw that Chris is driven by his son's spirit, and in it, I found out that his son had passed away, and that he is being motivated by his son's enduring, positive, encouraging, motivating words to this day, which is what inspired you to write this book, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that nudge hit me about a year and a half after Christian had passed. Yep.
And so when I saw this in this description, it had only been maybe 2 months since my brother passed away. And I didn't know how Chris's son passed away. All I knew is that we were sharing a like vibration, a like frequency, which is grief.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I was also feeling a lot of love within this grief. And so I'm not exactly sure how Chris and I ended up talking on the phone. I think either I reached out to you or you reached
We
out to
did.
me, but we
Yeah.
had like a 2.5 hour discussion.
No, it may have been longer than that, to be
You know
honest
what? I
with
think
you. I
you're
know
right,
it
maybe
was
3 hours or something like that.
Yeah,
3
I
or
think
4
it
hours.
was. I think before we knew it, we were 3 hours into this, but we had such a beautiful journey and conversation. My wife was included in that conversation. And I think what was unbelievable, I'm sure you'll agree with me, is, yeah, we made this connection through, I'm sure it was through the connections of my son and your brother somehow, because there are so many similarities. And we recognized that when we started speaking. That's probably why we spoke for 3 hours, because it was
kept unraveling.
Yeah, it just kept unraveling how connected we are. And it's as if you and I have known each other our whole lives. How I've known your brother his whole life. It's a weird thing. I guess it's weird, but it's beautiful that someone you've never met, someone you've never spoken to, you can have such a deep connection with. And that's how I felt that day, and still do, of course. And I think you're a unbelievable human being, and so a beautiful soul. And so, yeah, it
Thank
was
you.
wonderful. I'm so glad we got to reconnect and continue our conversation.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for sharing your beautiful soul with me as well. I really appreciate this connection. I have a question. So, you said right now, you said something that kind of just rings true to me as well. When we started speaking, when we talked on the phone for almost 4 hours, it was as if we've known each other, or is that things that we were saying, it's as if I knew Christian as well. Like somehow, do you think that there's a possibility that we did know each other before in another lifetime, or
Yeah,
how do you
actually,
feel about that?
I do feel that way. Yeah, I do believe that. I think that somehow before we ever got here on this earth, that you and I have had a connection. I think there's, you can feel it, and I felt
Yeah,
something. I don't think you talk to someone for 3 hours that deep and resonate so deeply unless you have some deeper connection that goes beyond the realms
right.
of this earthly world. So
Yes.
yeah, I think in a world where we best friends, I have no clue about that. Where we guys who knew each other and have hung out with each other or met each other, yeah, to make sure we reconnected. Sure, I believe there's always these connections. I don't think they happen by happenstance. I think that these are purposeful. I think that God puts us in a position to be connected to people that are important to us, that have have a way of bringing out something in ourselves, and the goodness and what we need to give out into this world. So yeah, I think, yeah, we knew each other. That's a long-winded version of yes, I think we've known each other before this time.
I absolutely agree with you. You know, I was hearing recently that all synchronicities are, I mean, everything is perfectly synchronized. Like
Mm,
there's literally never ever there's no such word or no such thing as a coincidence, because everything is in perfect synchronicity. Everything's in perfect harmony. Everything's in a perfect symphony. And
mhm.
so at the perfect time,
Yeah.
for whatever moment we're going through, whether it's good or sad or happy or mad, whatever circumstance that we come across, it's because it's meant to guide us and it's part of our journey.
Yeah, I think you're right on with that. I think that there is purpose. I mean, hence purpose driven life. But yeah, I think there has to be. I don't, there's too much, there's so much pain and there's grief, there's suffering, there's different things, of course, but all of those have purpose, purpose for us as we continue to be here and what we need to put back out
Yes.
into the world, right? And
Right.
part of that is you and I speaking today, those who are listening, to find their purpose, those who are lost, those who are struggling, those who are going, whether it's through
Mhm.
grief, difficult times, divorce, there's all kinds of
Right.
different things that we experience in this earthly realm.
Right.
But I think it's important for us, and what you're doing, and I think I'm doing, is to continue to put positivity, put out love, show
Yes.
that there is purpose to this world. Even in the worst of moments, we can find purpose.
Absolutely. And I love how you said that. Even in the worst of moments, we can find purpose. How do you tell someone that there's still purpose when they're going through the worst time of their life, or the dark night of the soul, or
Yeah.
heavy grieving?
Well, I guess like I mean, I've been through it myself, right? So
Sure.
losing my son, my firstborn, Christian, at the age of 23. He was diagnosed at 22 with terminal cancer. He knew he had terminal cancer. He was given that diagnosis. Yet, when he was told this, he told me and his mother that he would not wish this upon anyone, that it was his burden to take. Very Christ-like. And what he reminded us of every day and all the time when we were upset and crying, when we were going through incredibly difficult moments, watching him go through what he was going through, he would say, "What's good about today?" And so it was his daily reminder to us to find the beauty, to find the wonder, to find the joyous elements of every single day that we have while we're here on earth. And that's what I try to capture in the book, because that's who Christian was. And so I think what I tell people is, look, it's easy to say, but when you've been down and you lose, for us is to lose our child, it crushes you to your core. You try to find out, why is that? How could this happen? What's the purpose to life if I can't have the most beautiful thing in the world, and you ripped it from me?
Hmm.
Um, and you have to figure, you have to go through that. And I always say there's, two things. One is to realize we're humble before God. We're not worthy of his love. And the second thing is that you're not in control. Ultimately, we're not in control. And once you let go of that control, I think
Yes.
that can help people who are going through difficult moments to just take a
Yeah.
step back from things and realize
Mm.
you're not in control. God's in control of things. Just things will come. And it literally is one step in front of the other. It's a cliche thing, but it can be that way for many people. But just to know that there is hope and there is purpose even in the midst of difficult times. Um, and certainly, certainly in our journey with Christian and Christians, and witnessing Christian pass away in front of our eyes, in front of his family, a young, beautiful boy, and cancer takes a lot out of a person. To
Oh yeah.
witness that over time is a very deep and heart-wrenching thing to witness and go through. But there was also absolute beauty. I remember when Christian passed away, his doctor happened to be at our house. They loved Christian so much they wanted to come and see him. That's unusual to see, have doctors come do house calls. But this
Yeah.
doctor, she just, remember when he passed away, she looked at me and she said, "Chris, I want you to know your son taught us how to live, but he also taught us how to die. And he died with such grace and beauty. And I it seems probably odd to people, but there is beauty in lots of things, even in the most difficult of moments you can find.
I absolutely agree with you. You actually just reminded me of something. So thanks for sharing that. I mean, as
Yeah.
you're saying that, obviously I'm having the visions of my experience too, and watching my brother pass away the same with
Yeah.
cancer and
Yep.
the years leading up to it. And so I remember taking some time when he in the hospital room in the intensive care unit when he was slowly passing away, and I was writing to him. And so I just you just reminded me I'd like to read something here,
Please. Yeah.
because what I did realize at that moment when he was passing is that it was a really beautiful moment as well.
Hmm.
And I knew that I would at that moment never be that close to him physically ever again. And so I was taking in every moment that I could, even though he could hardly breathe at that time.
Right.
So here it is. This was April 9th. This is actually the day he passed away. What is all the fighting for if at the end the body tires? In this moment, I take to feel your love ever present, as pure as I could have it. In this moment, your blood is still pumping, your heart is still beating, and I know you are still hearing. What's left is your strong, vibrant, courageous, valiant spirit. Stay with me, brother, so that I'm always motivated and inspired by your brilliance.
Hmm.
And
Beautiful.
so, yeah, and that's exactly what I was feeling at the moment, is that even though I was in so much pain, it was still so beautiful to see him in a really innocent, pure state. And I knew then that the grief that I was feeling was all because of love.
When you read that back, Lino, I imagine I do the same thing. I imagine you read something, especially something that day. Obviously, it relives a lot of the feelings, right?
Yeah,
You tap into the feeling. I could see it. Obviously, it's a
sure.
difficult thing to read. Do you go back to that moment when you're reading something like that? Have you read that many times, or is it that the first time you've read that in a while?
Well, since he's passed away, I've read it maybe 3 times. No, I haven't
Okay.
read it many. You just
Yeah.
reminded me of it right now, but I do have this
Yeah.
journal that I have dedicated to him in my podcast room, where when I write about him, it's just a journal for him. I write him
Yeah.
poetry still, and I still write him letters,
It's wonderful. It's
So
awesome.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And so I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm really curious about what's good about today and the book that's out now. Tell me a little bit about this book. Tell us a bit about what's good about today.
Yeah, so it's not something I intended, nor do I wish I had to write a book. I wish I didn't. Wish my life in terms were a little different, obviously, and Christian was here. Uh, I think when you go through something like this in the first, I like you, journaled. I wrote during Christian's sickness from the moment he got sick and when he was diagnosed. It was my escape hatch, I guess, to from probably midnight till 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
I would either write. I don't recall sleeping much during those days. It was cat naps for a year of just because we were always trying to save his life, right? To find the best
Yeah.
doctors, the next cure, the next pill, the next thing that could help him. And so I think, you know, journaling helped me, in a way to just put down my feelings at the time and it helped to develop the book, right? I think a year and a half later, I got that nudge. I felt Christian it wasn't like Christian was extremely humble, so it wouldn't be like write a book, Dad. You got, it was nothing like that. It was more like, Christian, I just don't like you. You don't want your brother. I think the biggest fear for anybody when you lose someone so close to you, your brother for yourself, my son, is you don't want anyone to forget about them,
Yeah.
and you don't, and that just to me that's the most depressing to me is to think that my son or your brother people aren't thinking about them. Right?
Yeah.
I want them to
Right.
think about them. I want to, and if it's just about the message, it's fine. The person and what they did, how they lived their life. And so I think, what drove me in many ways was Christian's sort of tap saying, it's okay, Dad, you can do this if you want to do this, but only if you want to do it.
Sure.
And I said, well, I do. And I have conversations with Christian. And so I did. I he was challenged to go back, just like you reading that passage from that you wrote to your brother that was so
Yeah,
poignant that, you read these things and it just takes you back.
it really does.
And I'll be honest, I don't like reading those now. I just don't want to do it because it was so deep, it's so hard.
Yeah.
But at the time, writing the book was part of that I had to. I think like yourself, when you do these podcasts, when you talk about your brother, you have to be authentic. And authenticity is everything. And you need to put yourself out there and tell your whole story and how you felt, good or bad, right?
True.
And I think that was just part of the process of putting this book together was certainly the journal entries, but it was really I say this all the time, it's a love story. It's a love story about how a family started from meeting my wife when we were high school sweethearts and when I was 15 years old, 55 today, and we've been together ever since.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And so yeah, and so I wanted to be able to take people on a journey and all the way to help people understand who Christian was and why he led this purposely driven life and detailing the things that he did, how he viewed the world. And I think what's great about the book, in a sense, every chapter, it outlines what happened in that chapter. So you can always refer back to the end of the chapter to see what some important messages that are important in daily life. And so, I can't tell you it was easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do was to write this book. And for many reasons, one is just writing it, but also just to get it out, putting a book out. It seems like it's easy nowadays, but trust me, it seems like there's all kinds of wackiness in the book world that you go through and challenges. But, making sure you get something that is a beautiful story, well written, people can follow along and and you can feel it in your heart and take something back with you in your own life at the end of the day and help people to find purpose in their own lives one way or the other, whether it's just a little nugget. And to me, if nothing else, if nothing else that comes out of my mouth when I travel, I speak, it's just the words, what's good about today?
Yeah.
It's all I want people to do is you can say it in the morning, you can say it in the afternoon, you can say it in the evening. And you can tell yourself what's good about today. And it reminds you like, yeah, today was really crappy. Today was just awful. But there were these nuggets of beautiness and there were
Sure.
these things and you can find great things. And so
Yeah.
if nothing else, that's what I hope for the world, for people to always get connected that way.
I love that. And I was really tuning into that sentence, what's good about today. And what I was feeling about it is just that, the good only can get better. So
Yeah.
even if it's something, a small little nugget of goodness can turn better. All good gets better.
Yeah, I think so. I think you and I talked about this before. My son gave me a lasting legacy is I used to do to-do list and my son has to love list. He had them all the time and it was just how much love can you put out in a day? And so I
I
don't
love this.
yeah, I don't wake up with to-dos. I wake up with to loves. And I mean this genuinely. I really focus on my day. I do not focus on what I can do tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. I know I'm probably on different things, and I'm sure it's a busy actually, I think it is. I glanced at it briefly yesterday, but I don't know who I'm meeting with. I don't know all that goes into it. I focus on what can I do in this moment? What can I do today to put as much love out into this world?
Yes.
And so if I make a list of how I can love this person, who can I pray for as much today? I have list of names I write on all these papers. I have these list of names I write. And then at the end of the day, I go back and I pray for everybody and at the end of my day and hopefully those
Chris, that's incredible. Rather than a to-do list, a to-love list. What?
well,
That's
it's not
amazing.
mine. I didn't come up with that, so I can take no credit for anything. It's just
Well,
my son who gave
Christian,
me
that's
that.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, he did. He gave me he said, make sure you do to love list.
And
So
what
important to
got
love.
him to be motivated to think that way? That's really incredible.
Yeah, your brother and my son are a lot in common, right? They are old souls and understood the world differently. I think even than you and I understand this world. I think you and I navigate it. Maybe I shouldn't make assumptions. I just know I'm navigating and I'm trying to do everything I can.
Yeah.
But I wish I could be like my son. I used to always say to my son, even when he was little, I said, I want to be just like you when I grow up, Christian. He was like 8 years old. I want to be just like you. He's 16. I'm like, I just want to be like you. And so I think he just looked at the world very differently. He looked at the every day very uniquely. He always pointed out the beauty of a day to me. Even when he wasn't sick. He certainly became incredibly more, enlightened, but he was always enlightened to share with me, whether we be at the beach and there be a sunset and I'd be like, yeah, it's beautiful. And he'd be like, no, Dad, just sit here for a moment and recognize what we're seeing here. This is absolute beauty in this moment. And he could just see these things in a different light. And it helped me sort of pause. And there's a lot to gain, a lot of insightfulness in pausing and reflecting and looking at things. And that's what I think he had the ability to do. And so I think that to love list was a way of him saying stop and reflecting that, hey, there's more than just to-dos. There's really, most importantly, is who to love and how much love we can give out to each and every one of the people we meet.
Absolutely love this. As you're saying that, what I'm feeling from it is that Christian had the ability to be really present. And that's what a lot of people aren't able to do these days because we're on this go-go, hustle bustle, work, work, work attitude, and we don't have the ability to sit down and really be present, be super present. I mean, by the
Right.
millisecond. And when you're
Right.
that present, that's when you're in essence with all there is.
Yeah. I mean, that's the perfect point. And that was a common trait I saw Christian, his presentness with anybody he interacted with. It's probably the one thing I loved watching the most. I was not so much, people are asking, who are these great moments with Christian? I have lots of great moments. The greatest moments I always had were actually watching Christian interact with other people because he was teaching me how, he would be in these, he was an actor. I think I mentioned in theater, and he was very talented and do these shows, and he was astounding. But it was the after the shows where people wanted to meet him, of course, and talk to him. He would be, a lot of people wanted his attention, but he would be with that person when they were speaking to them fully and presently. And just the simple act of just when you're speaking to someone to be present in their thoughts, listen,
Yes,
take it all in, um, because it's a precious moment. There are
it really
precious
is.
moments when you're in the present. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That presenceness is key. A lot of people don't have it. I try my darndest. It's probably it's one of the things I've learned a lot to do is to be more present.
I love it. And as you're saying that, what I'm also feeling is when I have met people that know how to be super duper present. My girlfand's one of them. I mean, she really
Yeah.
knows how to tell me to
The
to sit
better
down.
half, the better
Yeah,
half, right?
yeah. And she's definitely teaching me more about being present. And it's funny because I often talk about and tell people how to be present, or even my students, it's most important to be present. But when someone, I mean, slaps it back at you, you realize you really aren't
Right.
being that present.
Right. It's always a significant other has to correct us when we think we're present. Hello, I'm a present. Like, no, you're not. You're somewhere else. Yeah, I can feel your I feel I wouldn't say feel the pain, but I know exactly what you're saying. I've been there, and I've been reminded of being in the present many, many times from my wife.
Do you know what I realize is that when there are people that are present, such as when you're describing Christian being present, or I notice when my girlfriend's being present, or even little children are being present, and what I'm actually witnessing is their divine light being
Mm,
within divinity. And there's so much beauty when somebody is being present. And you're even
mm,
when you're witnessing people be present with one another at a coffee shop, talking to each other, eye contact. It's so beautiful. And you
mhm.
can't get that anywhere else. That type of beauty is only a one-time beauty, and that is as you are experiencing it, as you are witnessing it, as you are living it, and that is the beauty of the present moment.
Yeah. You're right. I witnessing presence. Yeah, it is a beautiful thing because they're all in, and yeah, you're right. You make a good point about the light, and there is an exudes light when you see people. And when you speak to someone who's more present than yourself, I've had people who they're all in, and it draws me back into being more present, right? Sometimes
Right.
I'm, I've done different things, all of us have, and if someone comes up and they want to talk to you, and maybe they're talking, and I'm maybe I'm thinking of something else, but then they're so into you, and you come back into that, but they're because it's got so much light to it, it pulls you in because they want to have this conversation. So yeah, there's a lot to that for sure.
And it definitely draws you in.
Yeah,
The present moment, when someone is being that present with you, it definitely ends up drawing you in or pushing you away, depending on where you're at and how you're feeling.
that's true. I've had that happen too. They're too present,
Yeah.
overly present.
Oh my
Guess that's
goodness.
possible.
Yeah, I guess it is possible, right?
Yeah,
So how
for
can
sure.
people find positivity even in the darkest of times? I know we started talking about this, and if we ask ourselves the question, what is good about today? How can that start to motivate us, and how can we start to embrace the joy and beauty of each moment to its fullest?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of what you said and what we've been talking about is exactly that. You know, one is, one of the things I talk about in my book, Christian, there's a whole section on, it's called Christian's Tao. And so Christian, albeit that Christian was a Christian, pretty much with his name, but he was also very spiritual in the sense that he loved all religions, if you want to call religions and spiritualities, and he understood that Taoism, of course, one of the things that I think can help, and I've taken this from Taoism, right? And Taoism it's just a way of life, right? Taoism
Yeah.
is a way that you're not always fighting the current,
Hmm.
right? So a lot of us in our lives, we are battling the currents of life, right? That fast tracking current that is pushing us. And all we're doing is swimming against that current.
Yeah.
If any of us have, just in a literal sense, when you've been in a creek, you've been somewhere where there's fast moving rapids, you're
Mhm.
fighting this, you're just not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And you're
You're going towards resistance.
Exactly. And Taoism just teaches you that you flow with that river, right? Let the river take you where it's gonna take you.
Yeah.
And some of that is that lack, letting go of the control. But I think, you can tap into that, and I try to tap in it. It's not that I'm a Taoist by any which, it's just that there are elements that I think I can appreciate that Christian took. The greatest things from, and by the way, they all share lots of commonalities, whether it's
Oh yeah.
Christianity or Buddhism, and they all have these common threads.
Absolutely.
And, it's just, I think people can find positivity in flowing better with the current. And I think, all the things we touched on can enhance all those things. But as soon as we just let life, that doesn't mean you don't you don't show up for things, you don't like pay your bills. That's not what I mean. It's like you need to just sort of let things kind of be as they're going to happen sometimes. You're not always going to be able to control every element. Um, I think it's a really refreshing thing when you truly do that, because
Right.
life feels very different overall. And I think it also helps you when you interact with other souls.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I think, and I think it's important that we treat each other with that. When you're speaking to someone as a soul. That is a real
Yeah.
soul in there. That is
Right.
not just a flesh, and it is but inside the person is a soul. They have a life. They have their own challenges. They have their own things they're trying to overcome. And I think the more we tap into other people's um souls, I mean, you have a better navigation of life, I guess, in a sense.
And to navigate that or to tap into people's souls, as you're saying that, I was thinking, I remember years ago, maybe when I was a teenager, remember I said something to my dad about feeling something from your soul. And my dad didn't understand that. He didn't, I've always been a poet. And so my father, he never really understood my poetry. He's like,
Okay.
soul, what's a soul? My dad didn't even understand a soul. So as you're saying that, I just kind of felt if people exist like my father, which I'm sure they do, how would we explain to somebody to feel people or see them for their soul if they don't believe there's a soul or what a soul is? How do we even
Uh,
explain that to someone, you know?
yeah, for me, 100%, I'll go out. Sometimes, look, I wouldn't call myself, I'm not a social guy. You know, I'm not like at party. I don't do any of that stuff. Maybe in the past I did. So going out in public or doing things and not, eh, by what I mean is it's just not my, I don't like all this interaction. Sometimes it weighs me down, right? I feel, there's a lot in the world and thinking about Christian all the time. And it's just how much I can do. But, you know, um, I will tell you that I have put myself out there more often than I've ever in my past. Meaning, if I sit next to someone, I will, and I can tell they don't want to talk to me or they don't want to interact with me. But I make it really abundant, nicely, of course, just to ask them, introduce myself, just to say hello, and it's amazing the stories, the life that you can it's truly unbelievable. I was just recently I was down in Florida, Naples for a wedding and my wife's shopping and like every guy, I have to sit outside these shops and they got these rocking chairs. Like I'm all the men are always lined up on these rocking chairs, and I sit, I gotta wait. And so I just start talking to people, and some of them are much older, like one guy, they're in their 80s or something. But
Yeah.
what a extraordinary when you try. And I love to just hear other people tell me their stories. Sometimes they're wacky, sometimes they're just, one guy told me he collects Hess trucks. These 80-year-olds collects these Hess trucks, from gas stations. There's so many stories. And you learn a lot. And I guess to your question is, how do you tap into someone's soul? The only way you can tap into someone's soul is you truly get to talk to someone and you truly understand the life that they had. It's not about yourself. You know, a lot of times we want to think, how much do I, in no time do I sit in these conversations, honestly, and do I tell them about my son? Not that I couldn't, or it
Right.
wasn't about that. For me, and I don't think Christian wants me to do that because it really is about me just trying to learn about other human beings
Hmm.
and the journeys in which they have had. Because I think the more I learn about each person, I just become a better person. I become a
Yeah.
better I understand this world a little bit better and how it operates and how everybody operates. And so that's, I think, for me, is incredible strength I've garnered from everything I've gone through, is to tap into that. I didn't have that before. I mean, if I sat next to someone, I don't want to talk to anybody. 4 years
Yeah.
ago, I wouldn't. I'd just sit there and probably be on my phone, and I don't want to be bothered. But now
Yeah.
I try to put myself out there because that's how you tap into someone's soul a little bit better.
I absolutely love that because I know if I'm out and about or I just had this idea, this vision of my mom shopping, and I'd probably be sitting around on my phone
Yeah,
probably too. But to actually take the time and talk to strangers, you get to connect with their energy and see the beauty in life and learn something from them, and they'll learn something from you as well. Even just being there, it's all the beauty of presence again. And when
yeah,
you're able to be present, I mean, you're in the gift of life, and
mhm.
that's what presence is about, being in the
Yeah,
gift of life.
yeah, yeah. No, I would encourage. A lot of people just don't want to talk to me, but you step outside your little comfort zone. And if you genuinely just say hello to someone and introduce yourself to them and ask them very, not prying questions, but just sort of to get to know, people open up, I think people want to talk. People, especially nowadays, people don't talk as much as they used to. And I think to give someone an opportunity to have a conversation, it does more for, I'm sure it does a lot for them because they get stuff out
Yeah.
and they talk about. I mean, one guy, I'm not going to bore you to tears, but this one guy, he wanted to show me he had a Ferrari, he had two Ferraris. I'm in Naples, of course, where all the money is. He's showing me his Ferraris and, all his accomplishments, but it's what he wanted to share with me,
Yeah.
and he wanted to he invited me back down to drive one. Like at the end of this conversation, within 45 minutes, he's like, hey, he's with his wife. You should come down and drive one of my Ferraris. I'm like, oh, thanks. I have no desire to drive any of these cars, but it
Sure.
was very sweet. I
That
mean,
is sweet.
and any, but it was a unique experience. And, it just, and every person's a little different, which makes it cool.
Yeah, I love it. It's actually a really super duper beautiful story because he trusted you. He trusted your energy.
Yeah, he did. It took, I could tell in the beginning he was very standoffish, kind of like, why are you bothering me? And this guy's like 89, he's like 80, upper 80s. What's he care? Like, what's this punk want to talk to me for? But once I broke through a little bit of that, which took about a minute or two, you could tell he didn't want to talk. All of a sudden, he just wanted to talk. And then, his wife's like, came out, was like to go. He's like, no, I'm just gonna stay here and talk to this guy for a little bit if it's okay.
Oh, how
So
nice is that?
yeah, so I think I had to be there for whatever reason, and it's amazing that I think many times that I've seen that happen. And that wouldn't even call that one in which was revolutionary or that it changed anyone's life. But I had instances where I've met people out of my way. It's been life changing, I think, for them, and certainly always changes my life a little bit. And so, yeah, but I was there for them. They were there for me, and just like you're here for me, and
Yeah,
I'm here for you.
I love it. Thank you. I
Yeah,
am here for you. Thank you so much
I
for
know you are.
having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so I'm super duper motivated by the what's good about today. I'm really feeling that. And I just find that if you ask yourself this question every day, I mean the universe is going to show you what's good about today. Because you're already asking the universe what is good about today. You're not saying what's bad about today. If you say what's bad about today, that's what you're going to bring about. So if you're
Right.
already starting your day, your very first thing that you ask yourself what's good about today, you're only going to get like messages. You're only going to receive like messages. So I
It's
really
true.
love starting the day off that way, and I'm gonna try every day. I'm gonna try it every day.
I
Starting
love it. I
yeah,
love it.
definitely. What's
Yeah,
good about
I know people have gotten the message, have written me. Have said that they put something in their room when they wake up in the morning, they can see it when they get up. And it's just a daily reminder of, hey, it's a positive start to one's day. You opened your eyes, the sun's out, maybe it's snowing, I don't know. But whatever, it is, whether it's a good cup of coffee or whatever, you're reminding
Yeah.
yourself today is a beautiful day. And today's the make that love list. So
Yeah, make the love list.
make the
Oh my
love
goodness.
list.
Make the love list.
Look at you writing it down.
I
That's
am. I'm
great.
writing it
It's a
down.
love list.
I gotta make a love list every day. And so tell us about the love list. So when you're writing a love list, I mean, I'm just imagining here. So if I'm writing a love list, it's going to be how can I love, who can I love today, or how can I exude more love? Can you break it down a little bit?
Yeah. Well, one of the most fundamental things in the terms of us is I will start I will put a list. I put the list together and I say these are the people I need to pray for today. So that's part of my love list.
Beautiful.
These are people I need to send a note to that I love them. So you're on my list. I
Mhm.
love you, Lino. So
Hey, I love you, Chris.
yeah, I love you. I love you more. I always
Oh man.
I have that written. I love you more
Oh,
right
I
there.
see that.
Yeah. So it's actually the last thing Christian said to me. I said I love you, and he said I love you more. And so it's
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, I just make sure that whether it's texting the people I love, sometimes I text people who I haven't spoken to in a very long time just to tell them that I'm thinking of them and they're in my thoughts and I care about them. So I do that every day, and I'll find sort of a random and I'll do that. Sometimes I get no response. Sometimes I get great response. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter. To me, it's letting them know that I'm thinking, someone is thinking of them because
Yeah.
Christian taught, and it's written on his plaque downtown, is be kind to everyone because you never know what someone is going through.
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
don't know what everyone is going through. And so,
Yeah.
so I think whether it's through basic emails, phone calls, texting, praying, and making sure that I interact with a certain number of people in a day. I will put down, how many today I need to be interacting with on a personal level when I go out.
Meaning
And
you give yourself a number? Like today
yeah,
I will
yeah.
talk to 5 people.
Yeah. I'll put a number. So it can change. Like it depends what time of day I'm going. Because if I leave in the morning, I know I need to meet like 10 people and have a conversation with them. If it's half a day, I'll go to 5. It's late in the day. I'll say I got at least hit one person that to know their story, just without looking weird. That's you know. I don't want. It's not to come off like like I'm approaching people to be weird. It's like
Yeah.
it's always a circumstance in our lives, whether it's at the grocery store or I'm checking out or I meet somebody and I said hi. Like nice to meet you. Your name's Jane, and I'll simply ask, where are you from? What, or have you worked here long? And, if there's nobody behind me in the line, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. If there's something that I recognize where I can um, journey into someone's soul, then I will try to do that in a day. But that's how I deal with my every day. But that's how my days kind of run pretty day.
And
And then
also
by
you,
the end of the day, I'm full. Like my
oh
cup is
yeah.
full.
Oh yeah.
I'm a full day. I've done a lot. I've talked to a lot of people, and I feel very full. Um, but that's why I attempt to do every single day. And there's days where I fall short, but I'm always trying to make it up some other way if I can.
Well, do you ever feel that your energy has been sucked out from talking to so many people?
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
maybe there was too much energy taken and then you just feel kind of exhausted?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I was challenged with that for a while. It's a really good point. And what I did is I went to speak to somebody, happened to be our priest. He's a really good man and beautiful person, and he was part of Christian's journey, knows Christian. Um, he I went to him. I was emotional and I felt this emotional part, which is I said to him, I said, listen, I'm speaking a lot, and I speak to just people. It has no bearing on whether there's nothing that I'm gaining from it other than my soul is getting refreshed or seeing something in these
Sure.
things. I also do speaking, of course, on the book tour, and I do speak at places and I speak in front of people. And some of these stories that come to me are heart wrenching.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, "How am I gonna deal with this?" I said, I'm torn. I feel like I'm torn apart every day. Like I'm dealing with my own forms of suffering, I guess, in the sense of
Yeah.
losing my son, but I'm having to take on other suffering or other people's burdens." And he said, "Listen, you're doing the right thing," which is the first thing I needed to hear. Second thing was, you need to give that up to God. You need to stop sort of saying, internalizing, because what was happening is I
Yeah.
take someone's suffering and I would internalize it. And I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
And they're in my head all the time. I'm thinking of their
Yeah.
suffering and their suffering. So I've just learned to take suffering and give it up to God and go like, I can't, I can do what I can do. So I think that's what I try to do. Even in these conversations, which are mostly good, it's not
Sure.
like someone's giving me their whole, which has happened,
Yeah, yeah.
people you'll meet will give you their life story and it's
Mm.
unbelievably heart-wrenching, but most of the time it's positive and uplifting and they're
Sure.
looking for the good, and some people are down. You meet them and they're just down, you could tell,
Oh yeah.
and they just need something.
Oh yeah.
And you come along and not all the time, but sometimes it's like you came at the exact right time when I
Yeah.
needed a
The
message or someone,
synchronicity. Yeah.
yeah, that I needed something to make me feel like, this is a good day, and instead of it being a really horrible day that it turned around on me, you know. And as I'm sitting here, I'm literally, I don't look at my phone and I'm not, but it pinged me and I got people saying, I love you. I love you. You know what I mean? And so it's wonderful that people will text me and say, I want you to know I love you. And they mean it. I know they do. We use that expression, I love you, quite often, but um I genuinely mean it when I say I love you, so it's nice when I get it back.
How much of that came the genuineness of saying I love you to someone? How much of that is coming from you loving yourself?
Loving myself. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, yeah, self-care and all that stuff. I probably could do a much better job of loving myself, I think, if I'm being honest, do I love myself that much? No, no. I mean, I try. I try to
Mm.
give myself the benefit of the doubt. But I
Mhm.
think it's always a tough thing for us.
Sure.
I don't know if it is for you, but for me, when you're trying to give out as much love as you can, and maybe I'm doing it to replace something. I don't know fully. Um, I should give myself more love, but I guess I get more from giving love out, and maybe that's the part. I always could do better at that. So I don't know. That's a long-winded question for do I give enough love to myself? Probably not, but I think it's a work in progress that I need
Sure.
to work on. I think the way I give myself love back is I hear Christian, probably maybe like how you hear your brother, right? Or they
Yeah.
give us messages, and it's a way of them telling us to love ourselves that, hey, they love us. So,
Yeah.
you know, you've gotta do those things. I think when you come out of a grief thing, you
Oh
have
yeah.
to give yourself love because
Hmm.
there's no way you can exist without giving yourself some love. So to say I don't have any love for myself would not be true. I do. Clearly, I'm here
Sure.
with you. I have to have love for myself to want to do this. But should I do more? Probably. But I guess I'm just giving myself just the right amount right now to do what I need to do.
What would you give yourself more if you could?
Uh, I don't know. It's not the right answer probably, but I don't know. It's like I think self-love's not it's like I thank myself like, "Hey, good job today," or, you know. I think I think I can satisfy myself at the end of a day by looking at my day and saying, "What have I done today that's been good for this world? Have I left a mark on the world that
Mhm.
is better than it was in the morning?" And so
Yeah.
I think that's my form of self-love to
That
say,
is self-love.
yeah, so I guess, fulfilling that prophecy, I sense that, I don't know that I necessarily reflect back on it and go, "Chris, did you," but I do say, "Did I do everything I could today?" Um, and I try to answer a yes, and sometimes I answered, "No, I didn't do enough. I didn't do enough to the world to make it better." So,
So there's
so that
times where you feel that you didn't do enough in a day for the world?
yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Probably more often than not, because I don't
Mhm.
think I always feel like I could do more, I always there's never enough time to do enough for all the things that I'm one person, right? I'm a gnat in the world
Mhm.
of the world, right? I'm just this small microcosm, but, my hope is that by taking Christian's words, learning about your brother, his beautiful soul,
Yeah.
knowing that those two connected,
Oh, yeah.
that I can in my own little way, inspire people to use that term, what's good about today. As I said, it's all that matters to me for the rest of my life. I don't have anything else. I do other things. Obviously, I have businesses and I'm a CEO of other companies. Um, but this is what God put me here, I guess, not I guess, I know, to take my son, I must have a purpose to that. And I have to take and shine that light to other people to share with them
Yeah.
what he represented. Otherwise, not sure I know, that has
Mhm.
to be what it is. And he'll guide me. God always guides us, right?
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow is a new day.
Sure.
So he'll give me what he thinks I need tomorrow. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. And we also have everything that we need within ourselves because we're born whole. And if we can trust that, then we're always going to be guided because we already have the path is already lit for us.
Yeah. You're right. Yep. So right.
Absolutely love this. So, hey, I have
Oh,
a poem I'd like to share,
oh, wonderful. Please.
inspired by Mr. Christian. Thank you
Oh,
so much
I love that.
with
He
what's
loves
good
it.
about today. And so here it is a poem. What's good about today?
Okay.
Waking up nestled in a warm blanket, like to a mother's womb, curled and huddled, warm and cuddled, I gently open my eyes to see dancing clouds outside my window. A slight and delicate nature show. What's good about today, if I may say? For it's the air that I breathe in, the same air love exists in. For it's in my first yawn to awaken my being and get me ready to create a colorful life in which I exist in. What's good about today is that the good can only get better.
Mm.
So thank you.
Thank you. I was transported into the poem, um, envisioning it all in my head. So it's awesome. Beautiful. You have a great talent. You are a poet, and
Thank
that's
you.
it's a rare thing. I'm no poet. I wish I could put words together the way you do. It's funny. For those who are listening, I've listened to Lino. This isn't just on air that he puts this together. I can tell you, I have been with Lino on conversations we had, and you can just talk, and the beauty that comes out of your mouth is poetic, right? It really is. It's a beautiful thing, and so you are gifted something very beautiful from God, and so continue to use it.
Thank
And
you.
that was a beautiful poem. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
And I know
And thank
Christian thanks you very much as well.
Oh, you're welcome to the both of you and to everybody. And I really appreciate that. I do have to say something though. Everybody's a poet. It's just there's
Ah,
just a different way to express it. And
mm,
you're being poetic by making your love list. You're being poetic by writing your book. You're being poetic by speaking your truth and being authentic. You're being poetic by sharing love and receiving love. That's all poetry. All poetry is the
thank you.
harmony of life and bringing everybody and everything together. And when you don't deny the togetherness, that's where the true poetry comes.
I'll take it. I'm a poet now.
Yeah, you are a poet.
Poet
I love it.
Chris.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And so where can people find your book? What's good about today?
Absolutely. They could find it. So the book is came out at the end of August. It's been doing amazingly well. It's on global distribution, so you can pick it up at Amazon. What's good about today? A purpose-driven life. You can certainly Barnes and Noble, any major retailer online across the globe. Doesn't matter whether you're hearing this in India or whether you're here in the U.S. You can pick this book up. It's available via paperback, via ebook, Kindle. Working on the audiobook now,
Oh,
and
fun.
that probably won't be out. I mean, I'm doing the audio. I wouldn't want anyone else to do the audio, of
Sure.
course. And but that takes time,
It
and
does.
you want to do it the right way. And yeah, so it's available that way. You can. I would love people. Most importantly, it's okay if you don't get the book. So don't. That's not always been my purpose here. Is that even if you text or Google Christian Cochran, you'll pull up lots of information on Christian in particular. So ChristianCochran.org. It just tells you about Christian and the life that he led. And maybe you pick up nuggets on that, most importantly, and keep reminding yourself about what's good about today. And you can certainly find me at chriscochranspeaks.com, which is what I do, speaking engagements and all these different things. But most importantly, it's just the message. But you can find the book anywhere, online anywhere.
Absolutely love connecting with you, especially face to face. Even though it's not in person, it's still screen to screen, face to face. And
Uh-huh.
now I've got a face to face conversation with you as opposed to the phone conversation, which is still brilliant and incredible. And it's definitely stays stored in my heart forever. And I really look forward to keeping in touch with you. And I mean, thank you so much for your blessings and for your present moment and for your light and for your love. And I look forward to just keeping this connection going.
Thank you, Lino. You're a brother for life.
Oh, you're a brother for life as well. We're brothers for sure.
Brothers for life.
I love it. Absolutely love
All
it. And tell
right,
your wife, send her
okay.
some love for me as well.
I will. Thank
Thank
you.
you.